Good morning. I'll call the January 27th board meeting to order. Roll call would indicate all commissioners are present. Please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, they got to move it. Wow.
I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Is there any additions or corrections to the agenda, Jill or Randy? None? Okay, be looking for a motion to approve.
So move.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bertram. Commissioner Johnson, seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have a presentation of awards. Jill, were you going to open that, or should I just ask for Mr. Erdman to step forward? And
yeah, we'll have Ryan kick it off, and then I believe Administrator Huberty will have some words to share too.
Thank you,
Morning,
Mr.
Ryan.
Chair, board members. I'm Ryan Erdman, the Member Engagement Coordinator with the Association of Minnesota Counties. It's great to be back. I was here doing this exact presentation last year for a different project that Melissa and her team put together. So I think it speaks really well of Stearns County that we get to keep doing this. And we have the plaque here, and I'll let Melissa actually describe the project, but I just want to say a few words about, why we come out to do this. You all got to have your picture taken with the plaque back at the conference when we awarded it at the luncheon, which was great, but I see the room is now filled with staff that actually make this project work. And so it's important for us to recognize that. We want to recognize you as commissioners because it's the standard that you set for innovation that leads the team to do the kind of work that they do in human services. And you look through this particular project, I think is really representative of what we try and recognize at AMC. These County Achievement Awards are for innovation. They're for the kinds of work that can be replicated by other counties around the state. I think this is a great example. You look at our legislative priorities, and it's about unfunded mandates, and it's about antiquated technology systems in human services. And those are huge budget drivers. And the fact that this team has found ways to innovate and be innovative and improve service delivery for the citizens of Stearns County in the environment with the challenges that we have, I think speaks very highly of their work and their commitment to all of this. So that's the reason we're here again, doing a new presentation to give these folks an opportunity to be recognized by the citizens of Stearns County, to be recognized by you all as the board. Like I said, I shouldn't describe the project. I have a summary that was written, but the folks who actually do that work are here. So I'm going to make Melissa actually talk about the project, and then I'm going to close.
Thanks, Ryan. Morning, Melissa.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Melissa Huberty, I'm the Human Services Administrator. And I appreciate Ryan coming from AMC to deliver the award. As you know, and we've talked about this was a multi-year effort, so this doesn't just happen overnight. It's about coming out of COVID and a 40% increase in requests for assistance out of our economic supports or public assistance division, where they were just pounded with applications and requests and phone calls and having to innovate and respond and rise to the occasion for it. So it was about increasing, it wasn't just one thing. It was increasing, efficiencies and changing the culture, hiring differently, adding technology, all of which is not always met with thank you so much for changing my life at work, right? But the staff and the leadership under Mike Pooler, the director, Mike Pooler's leadership, his supervisors mostly, I think they might all be here, did a tremendous job of galvanizing the entire division into addressing and meeting the moment. And so in the end, since last September, we've been caught up without adding staff or having the benefit of having additional staff. We've had about the same number of FTEs doing this work before COVID as after COVID, even with this incredible increase in volume. The board did approve of positions to be added in 2023, but we were not able to hire. So we've been at about the same level count since before. So anyway, this was incredible work. And I just want to applaud all of them because it's really about the leadership and the staff all together working together and pulling in the same direction. So it was an excellent job. So with that, there are a lot of them here, and I'd love it if they could have a photo with the board because we appreciate all of your support. So.
Just gonna make one additional comment in closing. I think looking at specifically at part of the project, the Ava AI component of that is really interesting because we get questions about that at AMC all the time. How's AI? So to have counties like Stearns and Melissa and her team and Mike and all the folks in the room actually using an AI tool that we can then say to other counties, yeah, go talk to the folks in Stearns County. They're experiencing. I mean, that's really the advantage that we have of watching projects like this. It's only a component of it, but it's one that's like super top of mind. We're talking about it all the time. People are asking about us all the time, and we don't always have good answers. I am far from an expert on AI or anything related to it. And I will readily admit that. But it's just one of those things that's a component of this, and part of the reason it's selected to be an award winner, but just as a general, good innovative work that allows us to help other counties do that and say, who's doing it? Stearns is doing it. Go talk to them. They can help you. And that's the sort of the secret of what we do at AMC is we figure out who's doing good work and then we direct everybody to them. That's the key. So that's one part that sort of caught my eye that's sort of always top of mind and really reinforces what this is all about and sort of the purpose of this award. So,
Ryan, could you maybe read off what the award is
absolutely.
for the public?
This is an Association of Minnesota Counties 2025 County Achievement Award, Enhancing Human Services Delivery Through Innovation and Accountability, presented in recognition of innovations in government that have improved the quality of life in Minnesota. So that's the standard plaque text. That's what the award says. This will be hanging. I don't know whose office this is going to get to hang in, but
We were going to hang it at the service center where most all of the staff are located.
Is that where the one from last year is too?
Yeah.
So you can,
Yeah.
Good. Start collecting a set. It'll look great. So yeah, there.
Thank you.
That's what we're here for. So congratulations, and congratulations to you all. Like I said at the beginning, having a board that actually insists on this kind of innovation from their staff is part of the reason you get here. If you guys weren't demanding that, if you weren't being accountable to the citizens in that way, the staff wouldn't be empowered to do it, and you wouldn't be leading in the way that you are. So there's credit to go around. Most of it to these folks, a little bit to you guys.
Yeah, they're the boots on the ground, and I guess sometimes they probably don't hear thank you enough, from the board and and others. So.
For sure, and I know they weren't. I know several of you are in the photo that we have from the conference, but most of the folks behind me were not. So that's again a big part of the reason why we want to be here to give them their due because they are
Thank you.
They're the ones implementing.
Before we do the photo op, any board members have a
Just
Mr.
two
Mercer?
things. One, Kevin did bring a hammer and a nail with in case you were going to hang in here. And welcome to Stearns County, Ryan, once again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good to be back.
Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Chair, thank you for all of your work. I get no credit because I'm brand new, so I haven't done anything. But I just wanted to add something about AI. It's only as good as the people who are teaching it what to do, and that's part of the work that your team has done, and that's really important. You know the work, and you can transfer it to artificial intelligence. That's a cool thing. Thank you.
Commissioner Clark?
Okay, Shiva, you had mentioned about the thank yous, and I just want to say, we get occasional letters that praise the people that you have in the office for the work that they're doing, but I know there's many folks that are very appreciative of the things that you do when you reach out that helping hand, because many of the folks that we are dealing with are challenged. They're emotionally, intellectually, socially, economically, and so giving them that help is the helping hand that they need, that they want, and that's just greatly appreciated.
Okay. Commissioner Clark?
Just want to add my thanks. I've gotten a chance to at least express it to a few of you, but from the public standpoint, we do have an amazing team. It is very difficult to get the workforce that's needed to train and retain and learn this. These are complicated programs, and as Commissioner Persky was saying, oftentimes, more than often, family members, the individuals themselves are under duress, stress, might not have all the paperwork. They do need to get their paperwork. And there's lots, and all of the changes, continuous changes of expectations, trying to meet people where they're at, all with really old technology. You really all have been changing the way work is done and caring about the people. And as Commissioner Johnson was saying, teaching Eva to really understand and learn, because that technology isn't going to work except for through your guidance, your understanding, your catching the flaws. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And how about we give them a round of applause
Yes.
before we have them come up here? We want to do a photo op up here? Okay.
Yeah, your place, but I'll get it. Okay, everybody's ready, I'll take it.
Nicely done.
It'd be nice if all parts of the meeting could be like this. Okay. Again, thank you, Ryan, thank you, Melissa, and your team for all that you do for Stearns County. It is much appreciated. And, again, as, was mentioned, sometimes a lot of people don't realize how much goes on behind the scenes to help the residents of Stearns County, especially like Commissioner Persky said, are probably most vulnerable and the ones that need that extra helping hand. So thanks again. All right, our next item is the consent agenda. Is there anyone wishing to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Move approval of the consent.
Okay, I was actually going to pull F12.
Go pull F12, sorry.
So, any other ones? Okay, so there are,
I will
Fifth.
move approval of all items with the exception of F12.
okay.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark, and Commissioner Johnson seconds that. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I just wanted to pull F12, which was the pay equity compliance report. More so just kind of just get a little more reference, on how that works and what the state requires. And I think Commissioner Bertram had a comment too that you'd like to make.
Mr. Chairman, maybe before we get into that, personally, I think, and I did email Mike about this, I think we should have this as a regular agenda item where we could get a little bit more in-depth follow-up rather than going through this on a consent agenda item, because I think it's good for us to know, for the employees to know, and the public to know how this all works, and especially with what's going on with the Sheriff's Department wage study. I think the more information we can provide, the better it will be. So rather than go through this for 10, 15 minutes, I'd suggest we move it forward to another agenda and put it on the regular agenda for that kind of dialogue, personally.
Okay. Then we should probably, is that a motion then to?
I can make a motion, yes.
Just really
Okay.
quickly, I think,
Commissioner Clark.
I don't know when it's due, perhaps we could accept it and then have a longer conversation so for everybody, for all of us to understand it, but if it's not due right away, then it certainly could get moved.
Mr. Chair, board members, so the report must be submitted to the department by January 31st, 2026. So the report was submitted to the State Department. So I believe it's okay if we delay your approval of the report until a later date.
Then I'll renew my motion.
Okay. You're removing your motion?
I'm, I'm renewing my
Oh,
motion
okay,
to move it to a future agenda.
okay. Is
I'll
there a
second that.
Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Persky. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving F12, which was the pay equity compliance report, to a future date, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Now we will recess our regular meeting and open the Human Service Board meeting. Melissa, there's a couple of consent items.
I do. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Melissa Huberty, Human Services Administrator. I have 2 items on the Human Services consent agenda, and they start on page 67 for H1 and H2. The first one is the CAMI grant that pays for most of our 2 social workers in the jail and the work they do there, and then claims paid on behalf of Human Services, and I'm available for questions.
Anybody have any questions on the 2 consent? Otherwise,
I'll move the Human Services consent agenda.
Second.
thank you, Commissioner Bertram. Commissioner Clark seconds. Further discussion on the 2 consent items? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. There is one item on the Human Services regular agenda, and it is item I1 on page 72. And it's just miscellaneous human services items. We've been in a very dynamic environment, as you can tell, and there's a lot of emotion in the environment and in the chaos. I think we can lose sight of what's actually happening sometimes. So I wanted to provide an update to the board and a reminder of things that are yet to come throughout this year and going into next year. So I'm afraid I may not be a ray of sunshine as I was about a half an hour ago. So there are 3 updates I want to provide. One is updates and brief updates on the HR1 impacts that are forthcoming for local communities. There's also the other federal funding cuts to Minnesota that I want to talk a little bit about, and the looming state budget deficit, all with impacts on local communities. So you'll be receiving a more in-depth review of this from myself and my colleagues across the state on Thursday if you're at the MICA meeting in Sherburne County. So I'm just going to provide an overview of what it is at the board today. So briefly, the upcoming changes related to HR1 include increased online paperwork required for individuals, families, and county staff to review in order to get on public assistance and to stay on public assistance. There's tighter timelines to submit the correct online paperwork, as the rules have shorter look-back periods, meaning cases will be closed if families cannot and individuals cannot provide the correct paperwork because there's shorter timelines for it. And there's just simply less room for error in the rules that are forthcoming with HR1. So while nearly everyone on assistance completes MIN benefits forms online, as you know, some people bring in paper copies. And all of that, no matter if it's paper or electronic, it goes from the system into 1989 technology, which we have more than talked about here. So just by way of reminder for the public, this is like DOS. And for those of you who've been around as long as I have or longer than me, it's Oregon Trail, if that rings a bell, okay? So that is what my staff are dealing with and all counties are dealing with when we get this paperwork. It goes right into that kind of a system. So systems modernization is absolutely critical. It's essential in order to address the rising needs of the HR1 bill. So we also know that HR1 cost will increase county costs, and that will likely rise in the form of increased cost shares from the federal government to states. So at a high level in the bill, in the HR1 bill, the mandates increased, and it's looking like the federal funding decreased. We anticipate that these changes will have a more substantial effect starting in about June of this year, because what will happen is we haven't been told the details, but we're aware the state may be doing a campaign to start to warn people about the requirements that are forthcoming in 27 and forward. What that usually does is causes a lot of, it's good that they would do that because we have to communicate that, but it causes a lot of fear and confusion in the community. And so what happens is people start calling us, start stopping in, start sending paperwork in, even if they don't need to send in paperwork. And All of that goes straight into 1989 technology. So you can't pull out the pieces you need, like those cases. It all goes in, you got to sift through absolutely everything. So it slows everything down. It will slow everything down. So like I wanted to let you know that the confusion and fear, we are already noticing that now before the campaign starts. When the state campaign starts, this will ramp up quite a bit starting in, like I said, June of this year, we're guessing. So at this time, we continue to be up to date with processing cases, but the workload is about to substantially increase with these effects. Again, so while the award this morning was about increasing efficiencies and changing the culture and adding technology, there comes a point where you can no longer just keep adding more work on top of the staff and expect that everything is going to run along smoothly. So we anticipate that staff will need to be added unless the legislature changes things this session. The rule, it gets into the weeds, and so on at the MICA meeting on Thursday, we will go into the details of what changes in the legislation that we are asking for. It's going to be or will be on almost nearly every legislative platform, AMC, MICA, MAXA, NACO, because all counties are impacted, not just in our state, but across the nation. So we know that people generally, about 75% of the time, send in the wrong paperwork. And so just by way of reminder, we know that when the paperwork comes in, it's usually incorrect. There's a lot less room for error on this, on the part of anyone to do that. And if they send it, if it takes longer because we have the wrong paperwork, there's shorter look-back periods. So that means instead of, the rules are differently, but generally, let's say it goes back a 4-month look-back period, it'll be a 2-month look-back period. So that means people won't have much time in there to send in the correct paperwork. If it's incorrect, our job is to tell people what paperwork they need to send in, and if they don't send it in, we have to close cases, which means people will fall off assistance. So. All right, the new rules, I guess I would just re-emphasize that will require families and providers to be extremely responsible for submitting paperwork timely and correctly. Our financial workers will not and cannot chase paperwork and do reminders. That gets us out of our lane, isn't their job or their role. And so that's sad and we don't like it, but that is actually the reality of this. They aren't navigators, they aren't case managers, financial workers are not. So in other words, they will tell people what they need to submit. They will tell them when the wrong paperwork is submitted, but they cannot chase the paperwork or continually remind people to send in paperwork that they haven't sent in. So county staff will continue to be very diligent reviewing paperwork, which takes time in order to do that. We know that we've talked about making sure that we only approve cases in which people are actually eligible for the assistance, which means we're only going to open and approve cases in which we have all the paperwork and they prove that they actually need that assistance. Know the constituents statewide will have longer wait times and a lot less flexibility to submit, like I said. So, and this is going to be a statewide problem. This is not just a Stearns County problem. So that's kind of the HR 1 bill and what's coming in this year and into next year that we know of right now. The second thing is, in addition to that, besides the impacts of the HR 1 bill, we also have numerous other looming federal funding cuts to Minnesota, most of which appear to be in some sort of litigation at this moment in time. So it's kind of, we don't know what's going to happen, but it does include a $2 billion withheld in Medicaid. So if that happens, that will have an outsized impact on rural areas, especially hospitals and clinics. That has, I believe that's in some sort of litigation right now, as almost everything is in litigation with the additional federal funding cuts. But $2 billion of cuts in Medicaid is going to have a substantial impact on our local community as well as the entire state. So there's other areas as well, including withholds on the social services block grant, threats to that anyway. And I think that's also in litigation. That is what pays for child protection and adult protection. It's also in the area of SNAP and HUD and in other areas. So just know that in addition to HR 1, there are other looming federal funding cuts that are in some state of litigation, and it's actually hard for us to follow what is happening there. We just are following it and waiting to hear what happens. So, and finally, in addition to that, there's the looming state budget deficit, where the last legislative cycle in 2025 in the human services area stated that we must cut $177.5 million in the area that supports people with disabilities to remain in their homes. This is children and adults. We must cut 177.5 million. We do have, the legislature stated that we need to have a work group. I believe Commissioner Clark is on it. I have some of my staff on it that have been working with the state partners and advocates to try to cut that 177.5 million. And I believe they have until the end of this year, maybe November, to submit a report to the state that outlines where those cuts will come. I will tell you that we are already hearing from families that are concerned and who have had some of their benefits cut. So these are families that have people with disabilities to remain in their homes. And that is going to be a very painful cut for families. And it must happen, or the 2025 legislature has already stated that that 177.5 million will be a cost shift to the counties. So that's an additional cut to local county tax levy if that happens. And they can't find it. And I don't.
Mr. Chair.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
just
Commissioner
quickly, I mean, part of what's hard is also bending the cost curve because we have more and more people, they're aging, they're utilizing many services, and the state law allows lots of pick and choose. The other cut that would happen would be to rates, so it would be both a cost shift and otherwise, and so part of the question is how do you, in a system that's really complicated and very little in statute, how do you modernize kind of on the state side what's going on so people are being able to receive the supports and that it's not cost killing the state, in all honesty. I don't know how else to say it, or our property taxpayers. And how do you pay for it, right? I mean, so just pushing it to property taxpayers isn't actually doing anything. It's just changing who's paying or how, right? And that's a different problem.
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that is kind of in summary what I wanted to state today. I will be at the MICA meeting with my colleagues on Thursday. We'll go into a lot more detail of all of these things, but I wanted to provide an overview so that you also are aware. And with that, I'm available for questions, and I will try to answer whatever I can.
Well, thanks for being a ray of sunshine.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You know, and it is tough, you know, and still you have to applaud, you know, the group that's here plus the rest of Human Services, because, you know, to take this on with not only the systems that are out there, plus now having to deal with this, plus they're probably the front line to the people who call and have questions and trying to figure their benefits out. So I can see where it's you know, it's tough to keep morale up when, you know, you're getting hit from all sides.
Yeah, that's great.
Any comments?
Yes, Mr.
Commissioner
Chair.
Persky?
Yeah, as a teacher that worked with Oregon Trail and Carmen San Diego and Walden Pond when that was breaking technology, I know the frustrations that people can have when they work with technology. You know, and again, we were applauded for our efforts to get AI working and getting that technology. But as I talked about earlier, we have many challenging people. And also, the work that you do is not also very pretty because they bring in these concerns and the struggles that they have in life when they need help. But what I'm concerned about is that, again, with some of these lower functioning folks, it might be very simple is that if they've got the understanding, for example, when they fill out their birth dates, if they use the European style where you switch the month and the day, the paperwork's not going to get complete. But they don't know that. And so they could be waiting months because they don't have it right. Somehow we've got to make sure that those folks that really need the help, deserve the help, but they can't navigate through the technology, that we get them the needs that met. And it doesn't bother me to think that if we need to hire more people or have folks be able to sit down and talk to them about it, because it's something simple. By all means, we want to avoid the fraud. And I think we're under the microscope here in Minnesota about the fraud, but nobody supports that. But meeting the needs, I think, is our number one concern. And so, again, I want to applaud the staff for the work that they're doing. But if we can find a way to make sure that people are not going to be denied the benefits that they need and they have to have, whether it's for SNAP or for housing or whatever, medical assistance, let's figure out a way to do that. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to open up the service center here is that, again, It's not to tell people, well, you have to go online. It's those people that can't navigate the work that's online that we're hoping to do. So I'm hoping that we can do that, and I would hope the board too sees that with this challenge, we want to do the best we can to, again, make sure the most vulnerable are taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Any further, Commissioner Bertram?
Mr. Chairman, Melissa and I and Mike have talked. What I'm trying to advocate for is to have a one-page kind of dot reminder of we're not going to remind you to reapply, or the birth date is a new thing. I mean, what are the biggest mistakes that are happening when people are filling out the applications that we can forewarn the applicant, this is what you need to, and the facility, and then connect the dot to the state. The state, I told Melissa, and she says it's hard to nail down one person or a division. I'm always am optimistic we can find that, but we put the pressure on that division of saying, okay, there's no excuse, and everybody's in play here. I mean, we're the front line, so we get contacted. The facility may not be encouraging the potential resident or the current resident to do the reapplication or whatever. So if the facility tells the resident and the families what they need to do and make sure that they're doing it, we tell them, we connect it with the state, that the flow gets better organized. It's connecting the dots, in my opinion, and it is complicated. But I think I hope that we can do better in outlining that when people make that application, that they understand what that entails. And then, of course, what's out of our hands is when people do make an application and they don't know that mom or dad had other income or have other assets, or, well, again, the family doesn't even potentially know that. Or oftentimes, if it's a young lady that's applying for it, her husband never told her about some of these things, or she didn't deal with it directly, the older population. So some of that falls into this, so that they don't know that there's other assets. So the more we can be proactive with this, I think the better off. And again, I'm not talking about holding hands or babysitting, but just a cheat sheet of saying this as a precursor to filling out this form, I think would be helpful.
Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Things like that are always good ideas, and getting them to our nonprofit partners, because as you indicated, Ms. Huberty, I mean, part of what's hard is, while we do have case managers for some kinds of things like our social services, some of our child protection, et cetera, the eligibility, the income pieces, those are really hard. And while it has been quite a long time, I mean, I used to practice in the area of public benefits, and particularly senior law, and nobody should need an attorney just to be able to figure out paperwork. And yet, that is something that has to be in, and there's a lot of public mindsets or words about personal responsibility and people needing to do their own things. Clearly, we strive to figure out how do you at least give some assists with that. Because of the earlier conversation that you brought up both about the federal changes or potential federal changes in the state deficit, I think the other thing that's going to be really hard, particularly for hospitals, skilled nursing facilities. Let's just name skilled nursing facilities, because for those who don't know it, we've been hearing from a particular group of skilled nursing facilities whose folks might not have their paperwork filled out. And that's hard, right? Because family members aren't the person and can go down that. But what I'm worried about is if the Medicaid funds really don't come to Minnesota and our rural hospitals, our rural skilled nursing facilities sustain, and I will include St. Cloud in this, right? I mean, this would be a big problem for our whole region. If then, too, people have limited access that have needs from a state standpoint to skilled nursing, or at least there's a lot more guardrails on it, what's going to happen with our folks, right? So I know that the division, the departments work on going upstream as much as possible, and yet right now it's hard to serve everybody. So I'm saying all this both because I appreciate the all above. I absolutely agree with everything else that's been said. And yet we are kind of expected to have maybe a pot of gold and a whole lot of people at the end of the rainbow, and we don't. And so This is going to get, as you pointed out, perhaps much more challenging in the short and maybe long run. What gives me hope, though, because I want to at least say something hopeful, is we have incredible community partners. And so the more that front-end communication can go, absolutely the better, and that problem solving. So thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that strikes me is that more often than not, problems are solved by collaborating with different entities. In the assisted living facilities or nursing facilities, we have a lot of for-profit organizations. For-profit is sort of the operative word there. We do need to communicate with them, but it may be some of those folks that we could get together to talk about the ways to do this right from the very start, and what their folks could do, whether they're case coordinators or social workers, what they could do to expedite this. Mr. Bertram mentioned a cheat sheet, which is important, but not just a county cheat sheet, something that everyone shares in common, information that people share in common. Pull together a group of people and say, this is how we solve the problem. Are the problems delays in applications? Are they communication issues with the county and the staff of a facility? Are they assessments not being performed in a timely manner? Whatever the case may be. I don't think we should assume that we can solve this problem alone, because we can't. But I think there are people out there whose bottom line depends on it, that may be interested in working with the county, if we got a collective together, working with the county to establish clearer systems and processes for getting this done, and putting people in points where they can really help. For families and individuals, there are issues with literacy, literacy period, and computer literacy, for sure. There are issues with language. There are all kinds of things. And those things can only be overcome at sort of the start of the process. But we have to identify the issues and then begin to solve them. So I don't have any specific answers, except that this is not only on us, but has to be on the entire system. And maybe in Stearns County, we can get some key people together to talk about the percentage of different kinds of errors and how we attack them.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Melissa. Any other words?
No, just, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, just to point out that these are very, very complex issues, as you're all describing, and if it was simple to reduce it down to, oh, you just need to do this and it would fix the problem, we would have done that, the whole system would have done that years and years ago. The complexity is increasing, and the HR 1 bill is increasing the mandate, so increasing the complexity, not making it smoother or easier. So those are things we need to be watching at the county level and the state level to try to make an impact on in this next legislative cycle and probably future ones to come. So other than that, thank you so much for your support, all of you, one and all of you.
Thanks, Melissa, and we'll look for another update on Thursday.
Yes, all right, thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
With that, we'll close the Human Services Board meeting and reconvene our regular county board meeting.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Persky?
I just want to comment, as far as completing work like this, like the paperwork that we're putting in demand on the individual. I mean, income tax, we would all have to file a sort of income tax, but yet how many of us would do all that information by ourselves? Somehow we get somebody that can help us in doing that. And so we can't expect individuals perhaps that don't have the skills, don't have the knowledge, just to be able to do it on their own. I just think there's an analogy there, so.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is administration. Jill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. So the next item on the agenda is to hear about a resolution supporting the repeal of Minnesota's moratorium on nuclear power generation. So this item is on the agenda at the request of Sherburne County and your colleagues in that county. The resolution supports both the repeal of the state's moratorium on and the siting of new nuclear power generation facilities, finding that such actions will help ensure safe, clean, and reliable baseload energy for all Minnesotans, especially as the state advances its 2040 goal for 100% carbon-free electricity generation. So this item also comes with two presenters who are joining us online, and we have Jenny Glumack, the Director of Public Affairs for MERA, and Annette Henkel, for the President of the Minnesota Utilities Investors, and they have a presentation to go along with this item.
Okay. Welcome. Can you guys hear us?
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
can
can we
you-
get the screen so we can see the people? It's too bad they're not here.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Apologies for not being there. Our calendars are pretty crazy today, but we wanted to make sure that we could get in to speak to you all. So thank you, Mr. Chair and board members and Commissioner Clark. It's nice to see you again.
to see
Annette
you.
and I both worked with you. I don't know, it's got to be 2 decades now ago.
Yeah, 15,
but
20 years ago, that's right.
I know, so it's lovely to see you again.
Yeah,
Um,
15 years ago.
15 years.
Annette,
okay.
you're on mute.
Yep, I worked with Representative Bertram 30 years ago, probably. So, long time.
You're dating me, don't do that.
Yeah, we're showing our age too, aren't we? Anyway, thank you for having us. My name is Jenny Glumack, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the Minnesota Rural Electric Association. The Minnesota Rural Electric Association is an advocacy association for the 50 electric co-ops around the state who serve electricity to 1.7 million member owners. You have Stearns Electric in your territory. And then I'll let Annette quick introduce herself.
I'm Annette Hinkle with the Minnesota Utility Investors. Been here for about 24 years, and our members are people who have the mom and pop retail shareholders of the investor-owned utilities serving Minnesota. So like Excel, which is big in your area, obviously, Centerpoint, Minnesota Energy Resources, Ottertail, and Minnesota Power Elite. So our members, though, are the retail shareholders, the ones that are your next door neighbor, your mom and pop retail shareholders, members.
So the reason we are speaking to you today, we've been going around and speaking to different county boards about joining the Minnesota Nuclear Energy Alliance. And the Minnesota Nuclear Energy Alliance is an alliance that Annette and myself are leading. And you can see the members, I believe, up on your screen. We started off with 20 members 2 years ago, and now we're up to almost 60 members. And we have a number of counties on the list here, but the main focus of the Minnesota Nuclear Energy Alliance is to lift the nuclear moratorium, to pass a bill that lifts the nuclear moratorium. The nuclear moratorium was passed in 1994. So a lot has changed since then. It was written before modern advanced nuclear technology existed. It was based on concerns that don't match today's engineering standards and science. Obviously, we have a 2040 carbon-free bill that was passed in 2023, and nuclear is a carbon-free source. As coal plants retire, we're going to need more base load energy as we move forward, especially with capacity rising within, the entire United States with more electric vehicles, data centers coming in, and all of that. So we think it's time to lift the nuclear moratorium. Other states are doing it. Actually, Minnesota is now the only state that completely bans new reactors. the few remaining states with moratoriums, they have loopholes and exemptions, but we are the strictest moratorium in the country. In fact, Michigan is restarting their Palisades nuclear plant. Illinois repealed their moratorium. New York secured its nuclear fleet as essential for meeting climate goals. And California reversed their closure of its last nuclear plant to protect reliability. So those are just a few points. I'll let Annette say a few words. So and we're happy to take questions or have more of a discussion.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to what Jenny said. The only thing is this simply, we want to have the conversation. If lifting the moratorium does not mean that a plant will be built necessarily, it just will allow the utilities to kind of start researching, is there a fit here in Minnesota? And I think the climate has changed from where it was 40 years ago, 30 years ago. Sherburne County has expressed an interest in hosting or pursuing a nuclear facility. So there is a community that is interested. And so that kind of changes the dynamic rather than forcing a facility to be built. There are areas in the state that would like to be considered for the economic development, for the jobs, for a lot of different reasons. And so lifting the moratorium just simply allows the opportunity to kind of have a more robust discussion and about nuclear energy. But again, as Jenny said, we're thrilled. Thank you for having us today. We're really kind of open to answering any questions. The momentum has been phenomenal this last year. Again, like Jenny said, we started with very few members and we're now over 60. And I think people recognize that nuclear industry today is a lot different than it was 30, 40 years ago. And it's time to kind of reassess here in Minnesota.
Okay, thank you for that. It's kind of interesting though, just listening, so there's a moratorium, but there's a ban. So if you lift the moratorium, does that do anything if there's still a ban on nuclear?
The ban is the moratorium. So if you lift the moratorium, that would, in essence, lift the ban. So, yeah, there wouldn't be a ban if you lift the moratorium.
Okay.
And again, it's simply just allowing the discussion. You lift the moratorium.
Yeah.
And the urgency to this, oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say the other thing that I find interesting is a while back we had this discussion with solar, wind, and then a moratorium was supposed to be like for a limited amount of time until you came up with a solution. But yet there's a moratorium supposedly that's been on since 1994.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Mr. Chair, thank you both for being here with us this morning. I just have a couple quick questions. Sherburne County has made known its respect for the Minnesota's Native American community relative to siting and operations. How was that done, and what were the concerns of the Native American community?
Well, Prairie Island is the closest community to a nuclear plant in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And we are working closely with Prairie Island, the alliances, as we're moving forward with this. We're always in discussions with them. They've been to several of our meetings. We're very close to their government affairs folks and the authors of the nuclear moratorium. They just met with, they're in constant contact with Prairie Island and just met with them a couple weeks ago. So we're very collaborative with them and very empathetic to their concerns and definitely want them to be comfortable with any bill that would pass. Does that
If the moratorium is lifted, then we're talking about Native American communities throughout the state. And I just wondered if you have more specifics relative to their issues related to siting and
I think
operations.
when it comes to siting, again, it's a new world than it was 30, 40 years ago. I would argue a nuclear facility would not be sited unless there's a community that is supportive of it. So working with the Native American communities, if they're supportive and they're interested in talking about it, then I'm sure a utility or utilities would be interested in talking to them. But if a community is not interested, my guess is they would go someplace else. So again, very cognizant, very different relationships that the utilities and the industry has with the communities. Recognizing community concerns. So whether it's Native American or a city or any community, they have to be receptive to and interested in exploring building a nuclear facility. It's not going to be forced upon them.
Yeah,
And I think you'll
I understand that, but I had thoughts of oil pipelines and water preservation and purity and that sort of thing. So I may have a few more comments later. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment?
Mr. Chair, just curious. By all means, I think the science has evolved considerably from where we were when the moratorium was put in place. Also, not that I know much about it, but what I hear about the potential for fusion opposed to fission, that gives us the idea that actually, there's going to be a almost unlimited amount of resource to have there to create energy is very promising. But my question is, does the moratorium have to be lifted in order for us just to continue to pursue? Can we just continue to pursue, and then when we're ready to go, we just lift the moratorium?
Right.
Well, I think one of the issues with utilities is they plan decades into the future. And so they're not going to explore nuclear if they don't know for sure the moratorium is going to be lifted. I mean, nuclear does cost a bit of money, so they're not going to invest in something that they aren't assured that it's, going to be allowed.
Okay, Mr. Chair, but then let me respond to that. Well, then if a proposal comes forward that looks to be threatening to the people and the environment, wouldn't then the legislature look at placing a moratorium then back on so that the development doesn't happen? So what I'm saying is that we're going to be lifting the moratorium and then allowing the research to go ahead. But if the research and the planning comes to that it looks detrimental, then people will want to put a moratorium back on. So I'm just wondering the necessity of removing the moratorium. By all means, I support moving forward with planning and research on nuclear. It only makes sense to do that.
Commissioner Bertram?
Mr. Chairman, I think a well-rounded energy policy includes everything. We can't rely totally on wind or solar or natural electricity production, in my opinion. If you look at Texas, whatever that was 3 years ago, the rainstorms came through and there was no power. Literally, there was no power within the state because they didn't have backup plans. So I think when you've got a third of the counties looking as this as an option, and with the technology being what it is, I think we need to expand what our potentials are and expand all of these, I think. And I can see that. Before you answered the question, I thought, well, if I was a utility, I'm not going to start investigating into something if I don't think that there's going to be a possibility of pursuing that. So, and certainly Commissioner Johnson's right, but I don't like to look at just one population. All of us need to be concerned about this, no matter what background we're coming from. And what I like about this is that it's not gonna be shoved down your throat. If you don't want it, it's not gonna be forced on you. And Sherburne County is obviously interested in it, and all the counties that are listed on the list are interested in. Back in the day, I think it was the 80s, again, if you live long enough, you get to see a lot of things. The nuclear storage was a huge deal in Stearns County, and it was going to be over by St. Martin because of the granite beds and everything. Well, that was kind of being forced on that area and on the state. That's all evolved into a whole different whole different discussion now. So I think it would be prudent on us. And again, we're looking out for our people. I mean, what's the guarantee of electric? And look at Excel increased the rates, I think it was 8.6%. Look at what that affected the county and all the residents within Stearns County. And people want to turn on the lights and have heat and power. There's a cost to that. And of course, then you've got your rural electrics working with the Excels and the cooperative power and everything else. Power is becoming a complicated issue. The power line coming through southern Stearns County, through St. Augusta, Kimball, is certainly causing issues. So again, I think we need to add this to the mix if we're going to have a reliable long-term power source.
You know, and as a former Stearns Electric board member, you know, I totally understand or been apprised of the time frame needed for any generation capacity. You know, if you take Coal Creek, you know, when this, you know, 100% carbon neutral, you know, when you take a power facility that's designed for 40 years and all of a sudden 20 years in, it's like we're gonna have to take a write down, you know, like GRE, you know, they're a huge, you know, because it takes a long time for siting, for prepping this. So, you know, I understand the need to, you know, lift this as well as what Commissioner Bertram had said, because it's a long process. It's not something that they're going to be able to do overnight. Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, Annette and Jenny, thank you so much for being here, and it's always been a pleasure to work with you. I've got a few thoughts going through my head, so bear with me for a second. This actually is pretty close to not being in our lane, so I've struggled a little bit with this right this moment, and I think there needs to be a lot of public education and comment. As Commissioner Persky said, I definitely think the study or the education and helping bring the public forward, it has changed. There's really good possibilities in all of this. And yet this isn't an all of the above alliance. This is a particular alliance. I'm not seeing the other carbon-free pieces of this. And, you know, without that, I would be, you know, if it was in there, I might be a little bit more interested in us figuring out how we would become part of an entity and learn more. And, you know, there's different ways we could go there. We also rarely do resolutions. It's really important from a county standpoint that we are across the board, and there's not many counties on there, and some of the most rural. That doesn't mean because, you know, our state association has positions on this that counties aren't at the table. But in this moment in time, we have some pretty significant needs for our people. Like, this isn't a resolution about technology modernization. It's not a resolution about how we're having the appropriate resources coming from the state. I mean, it's not even like a don't cost shift things, like some things that are pretty bread and butter from our standpoint. So I am personally hesitant to say that this is the most pressing issue for this session in a highly charged and divided legislature. And yet, I do appreciate the desire to bring people together. So I actually think the table needs to be broadened even more. And that's one of the things I've personally liked working with both of you in the past, is you understand how that goes. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions right now. I didn't hear either of you say the tribes are on board. I hear you showing respect. But I'm not sure that any of us would be super excited if it was until our community would know that they would be safe. And I do believe there's safe technology. I've learned a lot. If it was cited right there, I still get concerns from people being 30 miles down the road, right? I mean, I still get that, right? Like, we're still in that old technology mindset. And regardless of where you are in Stearns County, I'm not sure how excited anybody would be in siting. I understand siting is a separate issue, but for the public, we need to help people learn and understand and bring them along. And frankly, I think we as board members would need to have much further education about all of this as well. So I am reluctant to sign on for those reasons, not to say don't confuse that with I'm not interested in continuing to work with you all, because I personally am interested in working with you all.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I should have done this earlier. I think General Henry Roberts is probably rolling over in his grave. I'd like to move this resolution.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we
I'll
have,
second it.
we have a second?
Thank you.
Further discussion? Commissioner Johnson.
I'm not opposed to nuclear energy at all. In fact, I'm aging myself now, but I had a friend who worked on the Fermi 2 nuclear power plant in Lower Michigan in 1972, I think. So it's been a while. You did talk in your materials about the fact that in 2023, a plan was set forth by the legislature to reduce carbon, either to get neutral, or I can't remember the phrasing, but it doesn't matter. You said there wasn't a plan. And from my perspective, there also isn't a plan now. And people have already alluded to that, I think. I believe it's true that multiple modalities of energy generation need to be considered, whether it's geothermal or wind or solar or nuclear. To Commissioner Clark's point, this isn't a legislative priority. And the real question is, do we want to spend our capital in St. Paul on this particular issue at this time? Because there are so many other things that are really meat and potatoes in comparison for our constituents in Stearns County. I think given that, the fact that it is not a legislative priority, and the fact that we should be, energy companies should be working together to help develop that plan, I think this moratorium could easily be lifted once it was clear across the state that there were regions that needed this kind of facility or wanted this kind of facility, and that it was an appropriate time. So I too don't feel like I can support this resolution at this point.
You know, and to Commissioner Clark's comment before, you know, this is, you're not going to probably get the solar wind organizations on board when you're dealing with a competitive factor, at least in my opinion. So I would find that hard to believe unless Jenny from MREA can speak differently, but I would think they'd be opposing sources, but that's just my opinion.
And Mr. Chairman, that's unfortunate because, again, as Commissioner Johnson said, everyone needs to be working together. We've got a 30,000 acre plan going on for 50 turbines right now. But again, we need to have those kinds of things in the mix. The wind energy, solar, certainly we approved the 110th one at the Planning Commission last week. I think it's 110. So we need to look at all those options, in my opinion, and just setting aside and not helping. We're not going to be leading this, and it's not going to be number one. AMC did approve it. I think Commissioner Persky was in the room with the Environment Committee. I was there for another reason, and I think Commissioner Notch was there. So three of us just happened to be in the room when Sherburne County made their had their discussion, and the county, and it was passed. And so this isn't a flyby. So we kind of stand by, and these power lines, three of them are coming across Stearns County. We've got 110 plus, solar. Now we're going to have a second wind project in Stearns. So, I mean, these things are all happening, and they need to, and it's got to be in the mix. And it's unfortunate that, of course, for selfish reasons, that these other companies aren't being open to that, because they're all going to still stay in business. I mean, they're not going to go anywhere. I mean, Excel's going to be there, and it's a mix. But this would add a tool to the toolbox that I think long-term, again, the people don't understand the details of all this, but they do understand if we hit that light switch, we want power. And if we need heat, we want heat. And so they get that. And then, of course, by the time that doesn't happen, when Texas hit, I had a friend that drove across the state of Texas, and when that happened, and he said, "Thank God my gas tank was full," because he literally could not have stopped. He could not have stopped to fill up with gas the entire length he was going from Florida to Arizona. He could not have stopped to fill up with gas because there was no electricity. And again, because in my opinion, they put all their eggs in one basket.
Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I will be voting against this today, not because, again, I don't think we shouldn't be figuring out a good plan. I agree, there needs to be a plan, and that's part of how things get moving, is people talking to each other and working on it. But in part because it is very specific, in part, as I said, because of the legislative session. And AMC right now has 3 priorities for this session. This is nowhere near being one of them. It didn't come up as even something to be moving forward to as we were going through our district meetings. That doesn't mean there isn't the opportunity to be worked on, because it is in the platform, just like many other things are, right? There will be staff working on them, but so I want to make sure I say that. I know it's tough to be talking to others, but I also know you two talk to a lot of others, so those quiet conversations can keep helping move forward. And, you know, as an individual, you let me know, I'll be happy to continue talking myself, so.
Okay. If we're done, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. No further discussion.
Just to clarify, the resolution is to support the removing the moratorium?
Yep, to remove the ban on nuclear moratorium.
And the key word, Mr. Chairman, is remove the ban. It's a resolution. We're not going to remove the ban.
Right,
We're-
yeah, it's a
we're
resolution in
supporting a
support
resolution.
of,
Correct.
you know, reconsidering the moratorium and ban on nuclear in Minnesota. So with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails.
I request a roll call, please.
Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Bertram,
Aye.
Commissioner Persky,
Nay.
Commissioner Clark,
Nay.
Commissioner Johnson,
Nay.
Commissioner Notch.
Nay.
Fails, 4-1.
Thanks, Jenny and Annette. You know, keep us posted.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Yeah, keep us posted, and, you know, like we said, that, you know, I'm on Environmental Natural Resource Committee, and, you know, at AMC, and it did get put up there as one of the items, but again, it's probably not gonna be a priority this year, because obviously there's a lot of other higher priorities at this point. So thanks again for attending our meeting.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the federal lobbying contract discussion from last board meeting. Jill?
Thanks, Mr. Chair, board members. So as noted in the board action report, we discussed this item last year at your first board meeting, and then we discussed it 2 weeks ago again. And at both those meetings, no action was taken. We're putting this back on the agenda for the board to have a discussion and to decide if they want to take action or table it for a future discussion.
Okay, anybody care to start? You know, I guess, you know, Mr. Turch did attend our last meeting, kind of gave us an overview of, you know, things he's done for the county in the past. You know, we appreciated him taking the time to do that. In the meantime, we've also gotten a couple of different, I guess you could say, option proposals, which, you know, obviously at this point we have acted on none of those. So I guess at this point, the discussion is, where would we like to go with this? Commissioner Clark?
Thank you. I mean, aside from, it does seem to be an administrative topic, just having to have said that. It is hard to believe we haven't had an ongoing process. Chevron's implemented one I think about 10 years ago, to go out for RFPs every few years. Obviously, if you like your person, you want to stay with them, but it's always good to be speaking to others. So I support us going out with an RFP. There obviously are a few different folks who are interested. We want to make sure we're getting the best value that's not the lowest cost. The items that were in general talked about were from the city of St. Cloud. They weren't county things, and they were from a very long time ago, and it wasn't really a legislative update, which was really unfortunate. But having somebody who really understands at this point in time and has our broader county issues, including some of the things that relate to HR 1, is really important. But certainly recognize that we will likely be spending more than we have, but I would argue our staff and members have done the bulk of the work in the last X many years anyways. So I'm going to make a motion that we go to RFP.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second that.
And we have a second from Commissioner Johnson. Further discussion? Any further discussion? Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, I got a couple of comments, Mr. Chair. First of all, when it comes to lobbying, I don't know if we're doing the best we can as a number of board members. When we go out to Washington or else, going out to Washington is not a silver bullet either, because a lot of the work is done here locally, and oftentimes the more work that you do here with the local representative has a greater influence of actually making progress to get something done, because they understand the situation, whether it be roads or social issues or whatever, and then they submit it, to the congressperson and give them the background and to their staff there. We're oftentimes overwhelmed with all the hats we wear because of the different things, working from human services to solid waste to transportation to criminal justice to all the other things that we have. And so then when it comes to these specific issues that need legislation, we'd like to be focused and focused in on that, but where does the energy come from? And sometimes I think we fail as far as getting that organized and getting it into what we need to have presented to the congressional staff. Doesn't always happen. And so therefore, oftentimes we put onto thinking that having the lobbyist is going to somehow create magic, that we're going to go to DC, walk into that office, and it's going to happen. Well, it doesn't work that way, because the congressional member could care less who necessarily our lobbyist is. They want to hear from us. And so I'm wondering if somehow we need to be more vigilant as far as the issues we want to purport and take to DC, that we do a better job of better spelling out what it is we want and how we approach that. Now, the role of the lobbyist might be able to have greater insight on how we manipulate that. And that's what I would hope we would get from the lobbyist. Likewise, again, coming back to the local thing, again, we need to be maybe working with the local office to spell out what it is we're actually looking for. Is it viable? I mean, for God's sakes, we were chasing North Star for decades. And I don't know how many times I was in those offices purporting North Star, but we never were able to move that forward. And we had tremendous amount of support from the community around here to get North Star here. And in a nutshell, it was COVID that killed it. If it wasn't for COVID, when the IIJA money would have come out, I think we could have gotten North Star here. But it's just that the ridership killed it. But we were talking about what we wanted. We thought that we could walk into those offices and just maybe, ask, we're going to get North Star, and it would happen because we walked in there with a lobbyist. No, I think when we're working on things, we have to make sure that we're being more intentional about what we're doing and what we're asking for. And if the lobbyist is going to help us do that, that's great. But otherwise, any one of us, I think, could call the office, Klobuchar or Smith or Emmer, and say, we're coming out to DC. Can we meet with you? They'll give us a meeting. And so what I'm saying is that I don't know if, as far as what we need to do is necessarily jump on and get that lobbyist unless we know who we're getting and what they're gonna do for us. And then what is the return on that? Because to spend thousands of dollars a month to set up meetings and go out to dinner, that's not a good return for the county.
Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I think, what's partially important, that a good lobbyist isn't about setting up appointments. I mean, certainly a good lobbyist could also help us get into the right people, which we have not always done. And we've got people who are open to us, right? But a good lobbyist helps with strategy, has relationships, says, yeah, you really got to do a demonstration back home on X, Y, or Z. We have some surrounding counties that have gotten to meet with Congressman Emmer's legislative director, not somebody who might be brand new. Among other things, their lobbyists have helped with some of that. I mean, it helps really lift the things you're talking about, Joe, right? I mean, so it's really important that as we move forward, that we're saying it isn't just what our lists are. They see our list and they could tell us. We've not had this, at least in my time on this board, we have not had our lobbyists come back and say, all right, here are the things. It really has been more about those appointments, and even those, as you were pointing out, could be a bit better, I don't want to say scripted, like who's doing what and where. It has largely, we've had success in a number of things because of our incredible staff, and then I would say us being good megaphones, particularly on non-APO issues, right, non-transportation ones. Now, Joe, Commissioner Persky, you and I have talked about this. Anybody who can help us get a bridge across the Mississippi River, I think we might love them forever. And but your comment about North Star is a really good one. Those were really great local, coalitions, and each of us have also talked to people who are not in we don't have them in our congressional delegation, but they're really important, whether that's Congressman Stauber or Finstad or McCullum or, other ones. We need somebody who can help us, and particularly that understands county issues. So I am excited about us actually hearing from somebody or people saying, here are the things we think you need, and then we can decide whether we want to hire somebody or not. Because right now, I think we're better off without one if we're going to get the same level that we're currently getting. And that's no aspersions to the people we've worked with.
Commissioner Johnson?
I think over many, many years, the current company that we've used has done some good work. But I do think it needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
Times have changed. Approaches to dealing with the legislature in Washington has changed. I note in the hundreds of pages of proposal here, under work plan and strategy, these are things that we really can't do. Identify and advancing federal legislative, regulatory, and funding priorities. We need someone to help us cull through information because we can't possibly absorb it. We're not getting it in the first place. Monitoring and reporting on federal activity relevant to this county. They pass a law in Washington, HR 1's a great example. It takes people like Melissa to dig out her part. There are so many parts of that legislation that we have yet to hear about, but we know things are going to be implemented in 26 and 27. And we need people to study, to research, and tell us the impact on us and what we can do about it. Communicate methods and responsiveness to urgent issues during the session when things come up. We're not, you can only read so much news and listen to so much news, and we just can't get it all as a body. So I think we definitely need a firm that's top-notch at the right price, that will be ahead of the game in every sense. And even in terms of setting up visits, I'm not worried about setting up visits, but in my own experience of the past, in being out in Washington just a couple of times, more often than not, I met with staff people, save 2 instances, one with Paul Wellstone and one subsequent to him with Norm Coleman. And to get to get the right people at the table when we have those meetings is really important. And I think a professional lobbyist of good repute will really be able to do that for us. So I think there are all kinds of reasons why we need someone to do this work for us. And an RFP is a request for proposal. We don't have to respond to anyone who submits. We can put them all on the shelf if they respond. But it would be a good way to get to know who these people are and how they do their work and the experience they've had, the successes they've had.
Sure. Okay.
Mr. Chair, just going off what Commissioner Johnson was saying, talking about human services. Yeah, you know, it's not just us, the board members, that are concerned about the lobbying efforts. All our department heads, they know more importantly what's going on. Sheriff's Department, County Attorney's Office, Environmental Services, and of course, Human Services, especially if you just like for human trafficking, when we're looking for that grant money. You know, County Attorney's Office and Sheriff's Department working on making sure that that's in line, getting grants for equipment or whatever, like they're on top of it. But we need to make sure that we have that communication, okay, so that when we do go out there, that we get the support that we need. But also when they do the lobbying effort, when they go to DC or go down to the Capitol. So yeah, I guess I'm open to hearing also from them what they'd like to see us do and or what's worked in the past as well, and not just make it our decision as well.
Commissioner Bertram?
Mr. Chairman, a bunch of things. One, I can't believe we don't have a current contract. We don't have a current contract. And this has come up twice in the 3 years I've been here, and we've never talked about it. And so I'm not opposed to the RFP, but I don't want to just throw out an RFP. I think we need to create the RFP because all of a sudden we get an email on the 17th saying we got to react to this right now. And one of the RFPs went into effect on the 19th and we didn't even meet yet, or was going to go into effect. But again, let's not run down the hill. We need to take a deep breath here. And what Commissioner Persky just said, the email did not include highway, the sheriffs, county attorneys. You know, again, we all have different, if we're gonna do this, we're looking to cut budgets, and but I'm open for doing the RFPs, but I'm still strongly considering, do we need a lobbyist to lobby for our goals? My wife and I headed up an effort to build an 18-mile trail around Lake Cronus. We never had a lobbyist, and we got $3.5 million with a group of local people. Highway 23, the 4-lane highway from Wilmer to Foley, happened. We didn't have a lobbyist. I got Senator Smith and Senator Klobuchar with a lot of other people encouraging them to be there to come to New London along the highway for a groundbreaking. No lobbyist did that for us. We did that. Every single one of us have enough contacts. When I was down in Washington for the Transportation Alliance, Representative Emmer at that time, everything was hot and heavy, couldn't join us for any of the thing. Everybody was meeting with individual people in different ways. My family and I sat in his office for a half an hour. We all have those kinds of accesses. And then to bring mayors with and township officials, I believe that we could be as effective as those two, and those are two realities. Again, 18-mile trail around the Lake Cronus happened without a lobbyist and the Highway 23. And the other thing that bothers me a little bit is we never identified the issue. I can count the votes. We're going to do something different. But I kind of feel sorry for David Church and Associates because we never told him what he was doing wrong. We never, or at least I never heard it. And I think if we share things, we need to do it as a group because individually I might have an issue or something and I can share that. But if we're really going to get effectiveness, we have to, as a group, say, you know, we really would like this, or we'd like to see this, or we've never done that. And so what I'm concerned about, if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to know when you get there. We kind of have to know what it is that we're going for, in my opinion, and we haven't done that in the 3 years I've been here. What are the other counties doing? I mean, I think if we approach this with the APO and other counties, we could potentially approach this as a region. We have a lot of joint powers boards with Benton and Sherburne, should we be looking at what they're doing? And I don't know what that is right now. And I think when members do go to Washington, in my experience, I think I went to Washington once in 3 years. We really, now 3 of you are going in a couple of weeks. We really don't come up with a plan, again, that I've seen that says, here, okay, if you 3 are going, this is what you should be doing, who you should be seeing. You know, I think that would be more effective, in my opinion. And of course, the other thing is, we have AMC, we have NACO. AMC is the state county organization for the public. NACO is the federal. We've got Transportation Alliance. We've got all these associations at the Sheriff's Association, County Attorneys Association, Auditor-Treasurer. I think everybody's got a, Sarah, do you have an association? No, I don't think she does. But I mean, we've got all these associations. And again, we could collaborate with them, in my opinion, on the same issues that we have. But I think the most important thing, if we're going to go to an RFP, is what is it that we want? What are we specifically looking for? It will help contain what the RFP is and the price to that. And then the other thing is, if we did do a lobbyist, you always can do contract lobbyists. You can, if an issue really does come up, HR1, everybody's working on that. AMC, NACO, Health and Human Service, everybody's working on that. So we just have to better collaborate that, I think. But so those are all my general thoughts. So I'm not opposed to going to a RFP, but I think we need to, I want to know what's in that RFP. What are we asking for?
There's a draft.
Yeah, but I've made 5 changes, so before you just, so if we approve an RFP, boom, is it gonna go out? Or are we gonna talk to the sheriffs and the county attorneys and everybody, and then take in our comments to revise what the RFP is?
Jill?
Yep. So this RFP was developed by our procurement department, and it has been shared with some of the other departments, but before anything is finalized, we'll definitely have it go around with the other departments, especially now with our new county engineer on board. We'll want to make sure that he has input on it. But we're happy to take any comments and changes that you would recommend for this. This was meant to be as a draft or a sample for you to look at as to what we're aspiring to when it comes to a contract with a lobbyist, but it doesn't have to be this exact version.
So, Mr. Chairman, to that point, I'd like to see what comments were added by those other departments. Are they in here now?
Yes.
And then I'd be curious what that is, because that'll help me understand, okay, in the original draft that we got on the 19th, or this, I assume, wasn't the original draft.
This was drafted, sorry, Mr. Chair and board members, this was drafted last January. And then we've just kind of held it until the last meeting. So we can have it sent around again to make sure that other department heads are good with that, and have County Engineer Bird take a look.
Mr. Chairman, then, especially if it's a year old, then we definitely need to circle back with everybody then to make sure that it's current.
And partially to your point, Commissioner Bertram, too, is, there are multiple other organizations that we're involved in that also have either contract lobbyists or lobbyists on staff. So sometimes, too, you kind of look and you say, well, if we have 5 different organizations, why aren't we like pooling together and working with one to make sure that whether it's transportation or human services, that we're all kind of wanting the same thing, but why are we all expending money independently? I mean, I agree. I think doing an RFP and probably getting good language in it so that we have everybody covered, that because each department has different priorities and topics, and maybe a couple of them aren't in here that should have a asterisk or a bullet point. So to that I agree. At some point this should happen. Whether we pass the motion to do it now, it doesn't mean we're sending it out now. I think the motion could be maybe amended if that's what we want to do to make sure we have time. But I guess that's Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I believed that we would be giving comments back to administration and they would modify it. We do not tend to see all I would not suggest that we draw this out, right? Like, if there's something missing, let's get our comments to them. What was given to us in that very short term was supposed to be a very short-term thing because there is a lot happening in DC now that we could be getting assistance with before we go. We could use help making the best use of our time there, and there's follow-up. So my understanding was that was all that was about. It wasn't any commitment to anything longer. And so, you know, if we have a week or two to get comments back to administration, that would seem sufficient. And I personally am really excited about the possibility. I don't disagree with anything that Commissioner Bertrand or you, Mr. Chair, just said about our associations. But I'm excited about the possibility of somebody looking out for us and what funding opportunities broadly there may be for us, what pitfalls there might be for us, helping us have some of those other components. That doesn't mean we stop working in coalition with others, but some of our needs are very different than some others are. And we want to make sure we're getting good value. And if we're not, if we don't see something that we think is going to really add value, then I would suggest, regardless of who else is using them, we don't do it. And that's why I'm interested. But I think we have the possibility of raising, there's a lot at stake. And we could have been part of pushing for HR 1, for us to have been not part of the immediate impacts for SNAP, et cetera. We didn't have anybody really knowing enough to be looking out for us in that way. So I'm hopeful that will change, and maybe we'll look at it and say, we're not going to get that. It's not going to potentially save us time and resources, and that would be a good thing. I will say, because it hasn't been said, is the APO did switch, but they didn't do an RFP process, and that's a little concerning, and Benton and Sherburne have different people, and that's okay. I mean, and the city very well may have different people too.
So if I can kind of reiterate, so we have a motion and a second, but do we want a little more clarification on that motion as to like a time frame or to allow?
Yeah,
staff
sure,
to-
Mr. Chair, I'll modify the motion. I actually thought it would have been, because we can give feedback, that we get feedback to the administration if they want to circulate it to us via email, and that they're making sure they're, talking to all the departments, but within a couple weeks, because we need to get moving if we're going to do this.
Yeah. Commissioner Johnson, you okay with, did you second?
No, I didn't.
Well, you second before.
I did?
Yeah. You okay with the
wanna
modification?
Sure.
Okay. With that, we got a motion.
Mr. Chairman, to your point, you said, why aren't these associations working more together? And I'll tell you, if you ask them, what I've been told 100 times in my 3 years, well, that's not the way we do it. And the last time, or the way we've done it, and the last time somebody told me that, I said, so how long have you been doing it this way, the way you're doing it? And they said 25 years. And I said, so you've done something wrong for 25 years, and that's your justification of continuing to do it that way? I mean, doing things differently isn't a bad thing. So let's do it different, more effectively.
Right.
And then if we do retain a lobbyist, which again, I can count, I think that's the sense. And I'm still convinced that if we put Commissioner Clark and Commissioner Persky on something, they're going to make it happen.
I need to get paid a lot more money.
Commissioner Persky, last word?
Yeah, last word, and that is that, we have the groups that were mentioned earlier, NACO, AMC, Transportation Alliance, and they go and we go and lobby the big picture bills. But that's not what necessarily we're looking for. What we need to do is we need to make sure that those dollars then come back to us.
Exactly.
That when there's a grant money available, that we're chasing that grant money so that we have the need here that will bring that grant money back here. And so that's where I think, also just like with, for example, the congressional directed spending, okay? We can't just wish that it's going to come here. We have to make an effort to have our project look like it qualifies, that it's worthy, and then take that out there. So by all means, when the larger things on the bills, ag bill or transportation bill or human relations bill, our services bill, that we use those organizations, but we got to be focused. When we have requests, that we're tuned in, and that lobbyist should be helping us find means to get those dollars that we want. That's what I think the mission should be.
Okay. All right. With that being said, call for the vote. All those in favor of doing the RFP with modifications, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. It's nice to have good discussion, and hopefully administration, has some things to work with now. Thank you. Next up, looks like we're having a cannabis update.
So I'll let the panel here introduce themselves, but this is a group that's been working on cannabis, and they're doing a informational update on that.
Does this mean the meeting's gonna slow down now?
Oh, wait.
Especially with Captain Lynn's being here.
Is that the voice of experience?
We'll get you ready for lunch.
Well, welcome, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sierra Lorbeski, Office Services Supervisor in the Auditor-Treasurer's Office.
Good morning, Angie Berg, Environmental Services.
Brenda Tice, Assistant Stearns County Attorney.
John Lentz, Captain, Stearns County Sheriff's Office Patrol.
Okay, do you want me to start? Okay. I'm here with other members of the Cannabis Work Group to provide a report on the registration of the cannabis retailer registrations and lower potency hemp edible retailers in Stearns County. We're here to discuss, I am here to discuss the legislation related to the registration of these retailers by local government units such as the county. The county and other local government units have the ability to limit the number of registered cannabis retailers, cannabis mezzo businesses with retail endorsements, and cannabis micro businesses with retail endorsements. The limitation is based on population and by statute requires one active registration for every 12,500 residents. In Stearns County, that amounts to 13 retail operation registrations. Local government units do not have to register any more cannabis businesses after that limit has been reached, but they may choose to do so. As of today, there are 2 cannabis businesses registered by the City of St. Cloud and located in Stearns County. One is a micro business with a retail operations endorsement. That business will count as one out of the limit for Stearns County. The other is a medical combination business with a retail operations endorsement. The statute, which allows the local government units to limit businesses, does not include medical combination businesses. So at this time, that business cannot be counted. However, the law in this area is changing. Every year we seem to get some modifications to the statute, and that's because it is all very new to this state. Eventually, this may become one of those that can be counted. If the retail endorsement includes sales not just to medical patients, but also to the general public, it would be logical that they would be included as one that can be counted, but at this point, under the statute, they're not. And you will also hear today about a number of lower potency hemp edible businesses that have sought registration in Stearns County. Before the Office of Cannabis Management came into existence, and up until this past year, it was the Department of Health that licensed the lower potency hemp edibles and oversaw those businesses. This past year, those businesses came under the licensing and review of the Office of Cannabis Management. The Office of Cannabis Management issues licenses to these businesses without requiring local government units to approve those licenses first. However, once they do issue the license, it notifies the local government unit of this fact, and the lower potency hemp edible business owner must apply for registration with the local government unit. They are not allowed to begin retail activity until after they are registered with the local government unit. If this is a new location or business, the Office of Cannabis Management will conduct a site inspection before issuing the license. Now, our registration requirements are payment of the fee, compliance with local ordinances, and tax compliance. And I know Sierra's been very much involved in actually handling all of the registration forms and going over that information with you, and she'll go over that with you today. I just wanted to touch base on the number of agreements we have with different, with our other government units in Stearns County. All of the townships that entered into agreements with the county with regard to registration. And we had originally 14 cities that we were looking at and offered to do registration for. And out of those 14, Holdingford and Lake Henry declined. The rest have signed the agreement. The city of Freeport came in and said, hey, you forgot us. And I put that on a consent agenda this morning. I wasn't, I hate to admit it, I wasn't listening this morning. I was getting ready for this meeting, so I don't know how that turned out, but I'm assuming they were approved. So they are also now on the list. I don't know if there's any other questions or if anybody wants to know any other information. There's one thing I might want to run by you is just so that you know, the statutes do provide a maximum number of licenses for the state that can be issued by the Office of Cannabis Management before July 1st, 2026. And that doesn't mean it won't change after that date, because at that point in time, they'll be looking at what the market can handle. But at this point, if you look at the statute, it's 342.14 subdivision 1B. It says for, as far as cannabis retail goes, cannabis retail licensors, the total number that they can issue before July 1st, 2026 is 150. 75 would go to the social equity applicants, and then anything, an equal amount can be issued to the general applicants. So that makes a total of 150 across the state. Retail licenses don't necessarily mean sites. Once they have a retail license, sites, the number of sites can be more than the license. It depends on what the Office of Cannabis Management provides for.
So if I can, Brenda, on your list here where it says not offered or declined, or what was the other one, not returned, those don't have JPAs, or they do their own?
The cities that weren't offered the cannabis agreement have their own law enforcement. That was one of the criteria that we looked at, was whether they had enough staff and law enforcement coverage to do it on their own, and those were not offered. The one that was on that list that was not returned was the city of Roscoe. Is that the one you're talking about?
I think there were two of them on there.
Two of them?
St. Rosa.
They have both returned theirs now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Good morning, Angie Berg. Just a quick update on the zoning side, which has been fairly quiet. The commissioners did approve a micro business back in August of 2025 in Wakefield Township, if you remember that. That was recommended by the Planning Commission. That is the only one that we've seen. They haven't applied for their construction site permit yet, so they have 2 years to use their CUP, which means 2 years to get their construction permit. So we can keep you posted on that. We do have another application pending in Wakefield Township for a micro business, but in that situation, it's incomplete for some land reasons due to access and a tributary, but also they were proposing to have multiple micro business licenses on the same parcel, which is fine because we allow for cultivation licenses in ag districts as well. But what we didn't want is to process the zoning permit until they had their pre-approval letter on all of the micro business licenses. And so that's pending until they achieve that. I just pulled up on the website, on OCM's website, so dipping a little bit into what Brenda said, the low potency hemp, that application deadline was back in October 31st of 25, and as of this morning, it just says it's expected to open again in early 2026. So, as Brenda indicated, the way that the state's trying to work the licenses is to kind of tease out the supply and demand. They are currently still accepting licenses for cannabis events, which we've talked about before, and then also testing facilities. Testing facilities had kind of played a little bit of a back seat in all of this, which, as did the transportation licenses. Well, you can't have a system without those two in place, and so those are still open. The last thing for zoning I would say is Brockway Township is the only township that has elected to have a more restrictive standard for cannabis. All the other townships have adopted by reference, or in this case, we will be doing all zoning administration for cannabis except for Brockway.
Okay. I'll have, Sierra, do you have something to add?
Yes, I was just going to touch on what Brenda kind of already spoke to, but there's a graphic in your board packet. I don't know if we're able to pull it up, but I feel like it's easier to show you guys with a visual. At this time, as of today, we have registered 4 of the low potency hemp edible retailers, which is what Brenda was talking about earlier. At this time, we have not registered any cannabis retailers, but the city of St. Cloud has registered 2. With that, by the end of this week, I'm expecting to register another 4 low potency hemp retailers. But that's all I have for right now.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson?
Thanks. I have a question that's tangential. It's related to the economics of this. And I may have this all wrong, so I'm open to you guys correcting me. But HR 5371 was approved in November of 25 and will be effective on November 12th of 26. And from a federal level, it changes the dosage of THC in edibles and drinks from 5 milligrams per piece, 50 milligrams per package, down to, I think, 0.4. That's going to change people's interest in this particular issue. Do you have any thoughts about that? Because as we see retail establishments grow, I'm wondering when we're going to see them fold. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a part of a McCatfo licensing group, and we actually talked about this in our last session. And I don't know what that means for these businesses, because I don't know like how worth it would be, like how much of a profit they'll continue to make. But like I said, we haven't seen a huge participation in it yet, but when that change does happen, we'll just have to wait and see if they want to pull out or continue with the low potency hemp sales.
Yeah, to use a silly analogy, I think if a store only sold alcohol-free beer, chances are they might sell a few, but they're not going to do all that well.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seems like this is a precipitous change. And if that federal law impacts all these organizations, these businesses, then we may see some consequences.
I think that's why you're not seeing more registrations here. So the low potency hemp probably will continue, but the other ones, right, who's going to invest in something where you don't know what the future is, right? So,
Commissioner Bertram?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to have Captain Lenz say something, because I don't want him to feel left out. You have something to share?
I thought I was just here for my good looks and charm.
Got it. Let's go with that.
No, from the sheriff's office perspective, it's just, once these are all in place, how do we enforce, how do we do our compliance checks? That's really our limited role. It's really beyond the registering and the licensing, our role becomes fairly minimal. It's just the compliance checks.
So, Mr. Chairman, a couple of questions. So I was going to ask about the growers, and you hit on that. I knew we did two. I didn't know the one hadn't done anything yet, or actually either one of them. We only approved one. And then when you reference low, is the other comparison high? Is it low, high, or what's the other? So low potency and what's just the cannabis general?
Low potency, the best way I describe it as it's 5 milligrams of THC per serving. Or like a better way to think about it would be like the THC drinks are a big thing. So in that case, the maximum amount of THC that can be in one drink is 10 milligrams, so 2 servings of 5. And then I kind of classify as like cannabis retail as everything else that doesn't fall into that lower potency chunk of.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you took in low potency, it's like a tablet or something, or what is it?
I would like the THC drinks are the biggest thing.
Okay.
That's what most of the businesses we're working with, that's what
So
they're
if you took
selling.
however many low potency and you mix them together, wouldn't that create a high potency? Or is that
I
being
would
too
assume
elementary?
so, yeah.
I mean, is there ways to get around this that we should be concerned about?
I'm wondering, I'm kind of just throwing out here, is it kind of like the 3.2 beer, right? It's just a lower hit, and you'd have to have a whole bunch of 3.2 to,
Feel
or a number of them to feel that effect, right?
And then what about the communities that haven't signed the agreement? Can you don't have to do that now, but what's the list of communities that didn't sign it that are operating or are going to be licensing their own facility? I think Painesville didn't sign it, and I think they're going to be doing their own, for example. How many of them are out there, and is that low potency? Is there no other, again, cannabis or high potency other than the two in St. Cloud? There's nothing else that we're aware of, even in the
Not in
communities that are
Stearns.
licensing themselves? Okay.
And we got that spreadsheet straight from the Office of Cannabis Management. I think the last time it was updated was maybe the end of December. That's the last time I think they published their updated record. There might be some in the process, but that's the most up-to-date one that we have currently.
Angie just counted them off the list. There's 15 on the list that were not offered the agreement because they have their own law enforcement. But I think Freeport might have been among those. So there's probably 14 cities.
And could you share those? It's something, not now.
I think
It is in
there's a chart in here.
Oh, I didn't see that. I missed it then. I'm sorry. And then the other thing would be the Brockway, for example. But when you look at this low potency list, I mean, they're all very small towns. I mean, the enforcement and the monitoring, I think, is going to be important, especially in some of these small communities, which of course is going to fall on the sheriff's department. Because if there's people, it's not going to be in my opinion, it's not going to be the establishments that are going to look for loopholes. It's going to be for a different level of folks that are pushing this. That could be, but these are all pretty small communities. The ones that have registered and the ones that will register, and obviously it's going to fall back to the sheriff's department for the monitoring of that. And I think you said, Brenda, before they are approved, someone does a site visit and.
For the low potency hemp, if they're a new location, it says that from what I was reading from the Office of Cannabis Management, they will do a pre-license check. If they've already had licenses, they won't necessarily check them before they issue the license, but they have the authority and state that they will be doing checks, and if there's complaints, they'll be doing checks. And before registration, the county does have the right to also check the businesses.
Because a lot of them already have food and beverage license already, so.
Right. And this last legislation, they did add some requirements under the new cannabis statute, or they have them in there that they have to be, meet the requirements for having a clean, safe business for serving that.
So Brenda, is there Is a retailer limited on how many they can sell to one person? I mean, I suppose not. It's like an alcoholic drink, you know, at some point you say, I think that's enough, but you probably can't cut them off, so to speak.
Well, they're not supposed to be serving alcohol with the cannabis drinks to the same person because of that would. I
was thinking more of like the gummies or whatever
Yeah.
the other products are that they have for low potency.
Not that I
that's-
know of. I mean, they package them. I think they actually package them as to what a serving size is, and it's on the package, but it doesn't say you can't buy more than so many packages because
That's true.
You're kind of going to the same place I was going, Mr. Chair.
Well, the poor sheriff's department's got to deal with
Well,
that.
and if you've been into some of the retail establishments, you can buy them either way. You can buy a single can, which is going to have your 2 doses in it, or typically you buy them in either a 6-pack or 4-pack. There's no restriction on how many 6-packs or 4-packs you buy at one time, or when you're at home, how many you consume.
Commissioner Persky.
Yeah, I've got a number of questions. First of all, when we were working on this legislation and passing our policy in Stearns County, we'd come up with the idea that we would limit it to 13 retailers. Isn't that correct?
right. It's based on the population for
Right,
Stearns.
and we went with that. I don't recall us talking about the low potency edibles or the low potent, I don't recall us having that conversation. So these low potency distributions, is this more or less getting just a license like to sell cigarettes? I mean, is that basically it, so that any establishment that would like to be able to sell them would just ask, and that's not then counted against the 13 establishments? Is that how I'm understanding this?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, local governments aren't allowed to restrict the number of low potency hemp.
Right,
licenses.
and I don't recall that being in the discussion at all.
Probably because you couldn't do anything about it anyway.
Okay,
Right?
but again, that number was, I don't recall that being in.
That's new information. Sure.
Yeah, because I thought it was the availability to, to get the cannabis anywhere, and I thought we were gonna limit it to the 13 licenses. Now, the other thing I just heard is that also with that license, is that if you've got the license, is it understanding then you can have multiple shops then? Once you have the license. So if the person has a license in Cold Spring, they could have 4 distribution spots in Cold Spring. Is that correct?
Well, it's like, if you look on here, Ron's Oil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
And again, I don't recall us having that discussion. It just changes the whole perception of how I'm seeing this come out and being presented. And then to Commissioner Johnson's comment about the potency and Commissioner Bertram's thoughts, if it's dropping from the ability or to have them at a dose of 5 milligrams to 4 milligrams, if you take 2 of them, aren't you at 8 milligrams?
It's point.
Okay, 0.4, but the point being, if you're at 0.5 and to 0.4, isn't it just a matter of taking two items and then, you're at 0.8? I don't know.
No, it's 5 milligrams versus 0.4 milligrams.
My goodness.
So it's a huge drop.
It's like, how many beers do you drink and you get to 0.8?
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I think your quote-unquote silly analogy, Commissioner Johnson, about it's not really silly, the non-alcoholic, it's pretty close to that.
Well,
It really
to be
is.
honest, I was worried about all those people investing
Yeah.
and losing their businesses because
Yeah.
things are going to change.
Okay.
Yep.
And we don't know to what degree.
Yeah.
And
right.
for
See,
most of the low potency hemp, they are like a gas station or an off-sale liquor store. So they do sell other things than
Yes,
just
it does.
this product. So hopefully it won't be a huge game changer for them and they won't lose a lot of profit from the change in percentage.
it
But
depends,
in this
yeah.
area, they probably will see less sales when it does.
You can buy THC at the Good Earth Food Co-op.
Yeah. Because these other types of businesses are actually the manufacturing distribution type of things, correct? Where you're limiting those type of retail, they're standalone.
Right.
What you're selling, like a brewery, type of thing.
Right.
versus a gas station that sells, cigarettes, alcohol, convenience items.
And just so you know, we did include the lower potency hemp edibles in the ordinance. It was included because it was part of the statute, but it was something that we did not have any, like Angie stated, we did not have any local control allowed to us over those.
Okay, well,
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Burke.
And of course, the 13 wasn't our idea. That was the state's idea. That was a minimum for us. We had to provide those, which was kind of interesting. Has the Sheriff's Department, have you established a protocol to test for pot? Like DWIs?
Is there a test out there for roadside field testing? The state had run a couple of pilot projects, I think, early on after this law was passed. I have not heard how those turned out. Perhaps the sheriff has, but I never heard any follow-up on that. So no, to the best of my knowledge, is there an approved roadside test for under the influence of cannabis while you're driving? No. Any other testing obviously wouldn't fall to the sheriff's office. That would be quality control testing done by the Office of OCM. So.
And what I found the list now, so when it says not offered, those are communities that are doing it on their own. This list that says fully signed, not offered. The not offered ones are the ones that are doing it themselves.
Yes.
Got it, okay. And then obviously that would be the concern, and it's always been my concern, we're introducing something throughout Stearns County that potentially could have negative effects. We were forced to do it by the state. How we monitor that is gonna be critical, because we've all heard of people that go in the liquor store, off-sale liquor store, buy something, go in the car and drink it, and then drive someplace, load it, because they just drank a half a quart. Now, obviously, what you're saying is it's, pretty minimum, and it's in liquid form or whatever, so they're not gonna be able to go and take a 12-pack and probably be able to drink that reasonably without having to go back in, go to the bathroom or something. So it's not something that they can load up on like you can, a half a liter of Jack Daniels or something. Or unless I'm missing something. You're not gonna be able to get high, like Randy said, on 3.2 beer quickly.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, board members, I don't have any experience with it, so I don't know. It's not impossible to test. There's just no, like a PBT we would use on the roadside for alcohol. There's no instrument like that. I know they were testing some oral swab, stuff like that. So that's not there. So we don't have that kind of test. It's not impossible. We would just run you through some other field sobriety tests to see where you're at, and then probably go with a blood draw or urine draw. So it's not impossible. There's just some other hurdles to it as opposed to alcohol.
Commissioner Persky?
That leads to another question then. We've got an open bottle law here in Minnesota. How does that apply also to THC?
That does, yes.
How would you monitor
that? Mr. Chair, Commissioners, it's kind of the same thing. So if we conduct a traffic stop and we walk up to your vehicle and you have, say, it's an edible, it's a gummy, it's whatever it is, you have an open package in your car, to my understanding, that's a violation of the open container as it applies to cannabis. The same would be as if you had a can and you open it up in the car and were drinking out of it, would be the same thing.
All right, well, thanks for enlightening us on cannabis. I'm sure there's gonna be more to come in the future on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could we take a 5-minute break?
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break.
All right.
if we have somebody in the back room. Oh, yeah, there we go.
I hear it.
Okay, now we're up and ready to go.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director. I have Becky Schlorf and Emily Forboard to present the next item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Becky Schlorf, Environmental Services Division Supervisor. This item is to approve the Department of Natural Resources delegation agreement for the Aquatic Invasive Species Inspection Program. We have been contracting or signing this delegation agreement with the DNR since 2016 when the program began. This is for just the inspections, and which is a portion of the dollars. And this is for up to 3 years. We are writing it as 3 years, so it would take us through the inspection year of 2028. The DNR is then going to be training and testing and authorizing the inspectors that we will use through our contractor. Our vendor is Water Guards. We also have a 3-year contract for them for the same time period. And then the Sheriff's Office is to provide the inspectors support when needed. That's a requirement of this delegation agreement as the first source of support. And just to remind you, there is a legislative reduction that will be coming. We will feel that in the inspection year 2028. So with that, Emily or I can answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Becky or Emily? Now we'd be looking for a motion to approve the agreement.
So
I'll
moved.
move.
Oh, go ahead.
Second.
Okay,
I'll
we got a
second.
motion.
Go
I'll
ahead.
make the
We got a
motion.
motion by Commissioner
Two motions,
Barsky,
two
second by Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Johnson?
I don't have the delegation agreement open, but I'm curious about the Sheriff's Department backing up inspections.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Johnson, at times there have been safety concerns, either with people at the lake access, et cetera. And so then when they have concerns with that, or the person with the watercraft is not removing the aquatic invasive species that's found, then they are to contact law enforcement.
Okay, how much time is that for the Sheriff's Department? It just
uh,
seemed like
yeah.
an additional duty.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Johnson, from the reports that we get from Water Guard, our vendor, it's maybe like once or twice a year that they are having to call.
Okay.
So it's not from my perspective, or from what I understand, it's not a huge load, but the Sheriff's Department could maybe speak further on that.
Okay. In reading it, it just sounded like it was an additional burden for the Sheriff's Department. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. With that, we have issues by commissioners. Commissioner Johnson, would you care to start?
Actually, I have nothing specific other than to remind people that we are meeting with Micah to discuss legislative priorities on Thursday, and then we also have a board retreat coming up, and then we have a session with our own legislators here. And it would be good to hear if people outside of us have things that they think we should be talking about.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark?
Thanks. I've been going back and forth trying to figure out whether to read a statement that just came out yesterday from a number of local community leaders with regard to kind of what's been happening, essentially reaffirming who we are, what we want our community to be like, what it's like for, this is hard times, right? This is just hard times. And I am thankful for the Sheriff's Department, for the St. Cloud PD, and our other folks who really strive to both keep us safe and make sure people's rights are done. If you all can bear with me, it isn't very long. I don't do things like this often. So the statement has come out from a number of business leaders, some elected folks, including Commissioner Johnson and myself, schools, some faith folks, education, higher ed. I think you'll hear in it things that reflect our values as a county. So anybody listening, for some this is too tame, for others this is too much. And with the highest degree of respect for the folks throughout our community, regardless of what their beliefs are. We believe in a community where people are safe, dignity is honored, and differences are met with respect rather than fear. Our shared work as civic, education, and business leaders is grounded in the belief that democracy depends not only on laws and institutions, but how we treat one another. Peaceful dialogue, freedom of expression, and equal protection under the Constitution are essential to a society where everyone belongs and can contribute. We affirm that our community is strongest when people can participate in civic life without intimidation or harm. Disagreements are handled with care, not cruelty. Rights and responsibilities are upheld together. Leadership models calm, integrity, and respect. The rule of law and constitutional protections are followed and respected by everyone. We reject violence and dehumanization in all forms, and we commit to being voices for peace, understanding, and shared responsibility. Especially for young people who are watching and learning, we strive to model what it means to live in our democratic values with courage and compassion. We move forward together across roles, perspectives, and experiences focused on the common good and on a future defined by freedom, dignity, and hope. We invite you to join us in this commitment as we create a safe, prosperous community in Greater St. Cloud. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Persky?
Thank you, Commissioner Clark, for that message. At this time, I think it's very important for us to take a look what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. Along with that, I think some of us have had some concerns about ICE. What we see on the news and maybe some of the emails or phone calls that you've received, obviously it's getting a lot of attention across the world even. My godson called me from Germany asking if I was safe. So it's definitely out there at a national level and of course the local, state level as well. And with that unrest, I just had talked to the sheriff earlier before the meeting, and I guess I'd be just a little bit concerned if we could have a few words, Sheriff, as far as where we might be with things happening in St. Cloud area, in the county, and where we might be with our cooperation, participation with ICE. You know, we've had a good number of demonstrations here locally, and I think they've gone pretty much without incident, which is good, and that we'd like to see that. So can you give us a few comments about the demonstrations and our cooperation or our situation with ICE in Stearns County?
Good morning.
Yes, obviously we're in the middle of what everybody else is kind of going through here in Stearns County. You know, there's definitely different things that occur in the metro area than I would say occur outside the metro area, which is kind of standard for us, especially with public safety and just laws and those type of things. But, you know, as far as the sheriff's office goes, you know, we are aware that ICE comes and does some operations around the area. Most of those have been in the city of St. Cloud for right now, and so the St. Cloud Police Department's been dealing more with that. The reality is that they do not communicate with us, nor do they have to, nor have they done that in the past. Any of our federal partners, they can come and do what they need to do and leave. So they will come to our area and they'll be doing some things, and we might find out about it. We might not. Depends on the you know, the how public it kind of is. If it's an arrest or something like that, obviously we get some calls. We have seen an increase in our dispatch centers on those days when things are happening here. Kind of from both sides of the coin, not necessarily from the ICE side, but from the, I guess, for lack of better terms, the anti-ICE or the ICE watch. We get a lot of calls from them, and we get a lot of calls from just general citizens. There's a lot of stuff going on basically every day. But you know, again, as a sheriff's office, we are here to support ICE in the respect that they are a law enforcement agency, and if they call for assistance, just like if the State Patrol called for assistance, or Sherburne County, or the St. Cloud Police Department, we will offer whatever assistance we can. They have specifically told us they don't intend to ask us for anything unless, you know, because they realize that we end up living in the same communities that we're policing. But you know, if they were to call us because of some type of an incident that you see on the news. They're getting surrounded, people are throwing stuff at them. Yes, we will go and assist them in that respect. As a reminder to everybody, we at the local level cannot enforce federal laws, so we can't proactively go out and we're prohibited from doing that, from doing immigration enforcement. So we're not doing anything like that whatsoever as a law enforcement agency. You won't find a law enforcement agency doing that in Minnesota. However, we definitely will assist if need be in those respects, you know, if something's going on. We have assisted some of our local partners with some you know, I guess I wouldn't call it necessarily a demonstration or a protest. I'm not sure what you'd call it, outside some of the hotels here when people thought ICE was staying in the St. Cloud area. I was able to verify through my connections with contacting the St. Paul field office of ICE that there is no agent staying in the St. Cloud area, so it was a mistaken identity thing. We have run down some false, we had somebody put on social media the federal agent shot somebody at Belclair Acres in Wade Park, and so or not I, but our agency in Wade Park Police had to respond over there, you know, eating up resources basically locally, which turned out to be absolutely nothing. So we have those kind of things going on, but again, we are aware that they are in the area. We know that they've been kind of around Rockville. We know they've been in Sauk Center doing some stuff. You know, they have, what I'm told is about 33,000 suspected people that they need to pick up, and I don't know that they're going to get to all that. That's a lot of people in Minnesota, across the state. They, you know, they do their operations kind of daily for the most part, and they try to come in and do what they need to do and get out. The people I've talked to said all day long that they, like in a traffic stop situation, they would stick around and try to explain to people what's going on. They're not really given that opportunity. It's a lot of whistleblowing, and then crowds start to gather, so they just try to come in, do what they do, and they kind of leave our community again. So, you know, that's kind of the broad overview. I and Chief Oxton have kind of daily communications because we seem to be the two jurisdictions, obviously. Again, not that they're not going to some of the other jurisdictions, but just, you know, from our perspective and from a jail perspective, they have not brought anybody to our jail. When they make an arrest, they transport them directly down to the federal building in the Twin Cities, do their booking and process them down there. So absolutely, you know, don't have any contact with them that way either.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Sheriff, for that update. And then also just, it's nice to see that, you know, folks are exercising their First Amendment rights, and we haven't really seen any problems with that. So appreciate, you know, both sides, you know, if they've got a message that they want to get out, that they do it appropriately and not cause problems for anyone. So
correct.
Thanks.
This is a good opportunity for me to remind people as law enforcement just to, you know, if you're going to go out and do some type of a demonstration, just keep it peaceful and everything's fine. It's when it becomes against the law or unpeaceful that we have to get involved. So definitely encourage people if they want to exercise that right to do that, but just to try and keep it peaceful and you know, and just respect other people's boundaries and those type of things here in central Minnesota.
Okay, thank you. I'm not done. I just got a couple of desk clearing. First of all, the presentation by Melissa, you know, we're going to have some challenges in human services, and I'm hoping too that, you know, that we can meet the needs of those folks and get them the help that they need and meet them at their level. Also, we talked a while ago, Shelley, you're still in the room, about maybe incorporate a meeting with a planning commission and the board. Maybe do that at some time so we get all on the same page where we are with policy and ordinances. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Persky. Commissioner Bertram.
I think I'll pass.
Oh,
okay. All right.
It's all too overwhelming.
All right. Yeah, and I don't have anything specific except we do have the MICA meeting on Thursday, which is in Sherburne County. I guess I think most of us probably will be attending. There's probably some administrative and staff. You know, and again, you know, with everything going on, you know, the old saying is, you know, it's not an eye for an eye. I mean, two wrongs don't make it right. So, you know, if at all, you know, if all sides can just, you know, peacefully do things and not cause bigger issues than there already are, would be awesome. So with that, We'll call the meeting adjourned.